It is May 23rd, the day after my birthday. So a couple things. So, the video that I posted, was it this morning? I posted this morning? No, yesterday. On missing the target. No, so it wasn't missing the target. It was talking about missing the target. But that's not what the title was. But what was funny, it was about splurging. And I think I talked about it. I think I talked about it yesterday in terms of me splurging on myself, right? With these photos, and then splurging on eating, right? Which continued today, but yeah, it's good, right? Once a month, I'm allowed to pleasure myself. But the other thing that occurred yesterday was missing the target, and how I went to the Long Beach event by myself. I had invited this friend of mine, to come with me, and he didn't get back to me in time, and so I ended up going by myself, right? And so then yesterday, after I was done recording, because I had just gone home, I finally listened to a message that had been on my phone all day, and I didn't get around to it because I was, busy, photo shoot, and the barbecue, right, and the beach. So and actually the message didn't come until I was at the barbecue. So I was around, family and friends, and just being present, right? And when I'm present, I try to stay present. I try not to be caught up about the future, not caught up in the past, just living and pleasuring in that moment. And so I saw it, but I didn't hear it. And then finally last night, we're talking like 11:30 p.m. I decided to take a shower. I was still up. I listened to it. I was like, oh, let me listen. So an opportunity by this individual that missed the opportunity I gave him before, he offered an opportunity for me to go with him to this motorcycle annual event thing, because we've been talking about wanting to go on a ride again, and I was in love with the feeling of flying on this motorcycle ride, and wanting that again, right? It's just so much fun. Like, how can people not enjoy it? And so he's invited me as a last minute spontaneous, hey, last minute. And I don't think he thought I was going to say yes, but I did. I responded. I was like, yes. I don't know how we're going to do it, but yes. Something happened, and it turned out not following through, and I appreciated this person for thinking of me as a, last minute, like, hey, you want to do this? I was just delayed in responding back to him. So I didn't respond in time for him to make arrangements for some other things in his life. And so I was real bummed out, because I was really looking forward to it too. And he was bummed out too, because he had missed it last year. But then I guess he changed his mind, and because I didn't respond. So this is funny. And then I had this other person, similar situation, this person reached out to me, wanted to meet up with me at the market for today, and then I explained to this person, I took today off because I had this tendency of always working on my birthday and realizing I'm not going to do it this round, right? And I set those boundaries, and Miss Hannah was awesome about it. She's just like, of course you're not going to work on your birthday. So I told her, I'm like, I'm not gonna be there because I'm not working on my birthday weekend. And so, she was so happy that I wasn't working on my birthday weekend. She's like, some people just don't get it. And I'm like, well, I used to be one of those people that didn't get it. so I wouldn't work on my birthday. And so she's like, that's fine, don't worry, you know. And then I said, well, I'll be at the Venice market next week. And she's just like, I might not be able to, but it'll happen. Like, it, you know, if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. so that happened. So I was just like laughing early this morning because I was like, no, this is continuing. It just, this repeated pattern continues to unfold. And again, synchronicities without wanting it to. It's occurring. So I thought that was funny. The one today was on terms of endearment. And so here's another funny thing. Maybe should I talk about it? I don't know. So so the funny thing is, I was should I talk about it? No, maybe I'll talk about something else. So I posted pictures, right? I posted some pictures yesterday from the photo shoot, and they weren't even like, they were like a picture of the camera with the picture. I always like that look, and so it wasn't like super clear, but it was there. And it started off very like innocent, you know, rompers, and then I had like the over the shoulder look. It ended with a very risky picture of like showing my backside, right? And showing me in a very provocative manner. If the other ones weren't considered that way, but you know, to each their own taste. And that one I initially had thought of like, should I post it? Should I not post it? And then part of me was like, I'm gonna post it, right? Because I think I look great and sexy and I felt good and I have no limits, no restrictions holding me back. And then I came across someone posting something else, and it's Sunday, right? Church day. And remembering, right, that there's going to be people who I trigger. It's just like anybody else is a trigger for other people. And not that they're purposefully triggering, but it's just like, maybe I should stay away from it. Hence conversation with stuff about triggering. Influencing, impacting, making an impact, maybe, better choice of words. And so we influence each other without even wanting to. We just do. Just by existing, we influence each other, right? I mean, plants, animals, because we're all interconnected, because we're all sharing space, we will influence each other. We will impact each other, right? Like the world with climate change, we are impacting each other. You know, I was looking at plants, which need attention. But, you know, I had put too many seeds in one pot. And so they're like, they're influencing each other in terms of how to survive. And so by default, we will influence each other. And so then by default, we're going to trigger each other. You know, it's not a bad word. Trigger is not a bad word. We just trigger. It's like, you know, like domino fight. We trigger each other. No judgment, no good or bad. It just is, right? It's just the law of nature that we influence each other. And so, where was I going with that? Oh, I had mentioned before that even especially when we're talking about sexuality and choices and difference of opinions, right? Because we're all interconnected, we all share the same story to a certain extent. There's similarities. We might play different roles, but we're connected. And then also at the other extreme, that it might seem like we're in difference of opinions, but we're still connected because of the emotional component, the emotional trigger, the influence, the emotional influence of action, of a choice of words, of a certain belief. We're still interconnected in that moment, even though we might have a difference of opinions. So I was getting a lot of compliments about, wow, you're making 40 look hot, blah, blah, blah. Grateful, like, oh, okay, Everyone likes, like, positive attention, right? And I came across another comment. It wasn't directed towards me. It was just kind of put out there in the universe. But it made me think. And I don't think it was directed towards me. It just happened to trigger in me the realization that there's going to be people who are not going to be happy that I posted such a picture, right? I mean, I showed my mom. She was shocked. She was shocked. She's like, but there was a part of her like, wow, like, freaking courageous daughter, right? And I think, there's something to be said about going against the norm. Going against the norm. And realizing that we have this ability to regain control of our lives. The power, right? We have the power to choose what we want for us. And in a way that, a balanced way where it's not, complete selfishness or like a narcissistic point of view type of way, but more of this realization that I have control, I have a say, I have a right to live a life of pleasure, to live a life of joy, of fun. And if I'm in a situation or in connection with someone who is triggering, influencing me in a way where it's like more like wah 70, 80, anything more than 50% of the time, right? I mean, that's a sign that, maybe this connection isn't for you. And needing to realize that you have that ability to say something, to do something different and not feel stuck, and being able to shift, a choice. So I watched a video this morning. I was inspired. Yeah, really liked it because it was similar to the video I posted today. For me, I posted on running. As part of the terms of endearment, I shared a story that I realized that I was running, right? Every once in a while I like to go for a jog. And I was realizing that the track that I was on was feeling very comfortable. When I can start singing while I'm running, I'm not exerting a lot of, like, I built up a tolerance to be able to do that. And then in that video I talk about how that's my cue of like, too comfortable. I need to challenge myself a little more, right? To build that endurance again. So I added another block. Had no idea where it was going to lead me, but that was part of the excitement. And so this video that I watched this morning talked about, instead of what did he say? The cool thing about I was half asleep when I heard it, so I'm trying to remember. But I enjoyed it very much so. Especially this person's voice. But anyways, he talked about how great it is to make life interesting for yourself. You have the power to do that. We forget that we have the power to make life interesting, even with the smallest steps. And he talked about how he had always wanted to travel to do the John Muir Trail, go on that hike when he reached a certain age. And he's actually planning that trip. He's planning that trip. I want to say he said July. He's going. so excited for him. So excited for him that I didn't know that this was something he had wanted to do. And you know, I know he had shared with me that he was planning this trip. But after watching this video and realizing that he had kind of planned it out ahead of time, and now that it was approaching, he's like, oh shit, like, gotta put it together, right? And then the excitement of that, like, how fascinating. I love that. I love when people do that for themselves, right? And he was at Zion recording this video, and how he, you know, he works with individuals, and how it's as simple as, if you always turn left, doing life a certain way, all you have to do is turn right. You know, turn right one of these days and see where that road takes you. So it was just funny because it reminded me of a video that I posted this morning as well about that. You know, I was going my route over and over and over again, and then realizing I need to do something different, I need to change it up a little bit. And I added another block without really planning for it, without really knowing what I was gonna encounter on the other side, but just doing that and then finding that connection, right, for myself in terms of exploring my neighborhood and making things a little more interesting for myself, challenging as well, right? Sometimes, you know, things that are interesting are challenging. Challenge is what makes life interesting. The traumas of life make life interesting. Good segue. I'm reading this book a little bit more, and I wanted to make a few corrections because I talked about a birth chart reading, and but anyways, it talks about the astrology, right? Background of astrology, and you know, I mentioned that this is all my learning. This is me exploring this new world that I had been, you know, not a part of, and trying to understand it and how it connects to the mental health aspect and really my life. But then again, if it's relating to my life, I'm sure it'll have a connection to you. So it talked about it's teaching me how to read birth charts a little bit better. And I remember on my birth chart there were empty houses. And I didn't know what that means. And I remember Miss Christina saying, like, don't panic. Just because there's no planet in there doesn't mean that anything doesn't happen. Well, this book talks about that. Those empty houses represent free will. And it represents an opportunity of how to use this house. And then it talks about T-Scroll, which I have no idea. But anyways, it just, you know, little light bulb. And then it continues to talk about this concept of free will versus predestination. And I had this conversation with my mentor, how people don't like knowing that their life is predestined. But then I was explaining to her, but the wild card is free will, because that then determines the course of how you're going to get there. And so the thing is that a predestined plan is not in this lifetime. A predestined plan could take multiple lifetimes. Free will is what is the curveball in how you reach that point. If you're going to add more delays to that final outcome, or if you're going to get on the bandwagon, right? Pick it up, learn the lesson, move on. Now, this is, of course, assuming that you believe in past lives. I mentioned it before, and I'm mentioning it. I have shifted my perspective, and I am choosing now to believe in past lives because I came across a YouTube video, and I will put the link in this in the description box, of this little boy, and I think I've added it before. He lives he's remembering a past life, and his mom did a great job of like trying to adjust and trying to support him. But, you know, if we were just to entertain the idea, let's just entertain the idea that past lives exist and that we were going to continue to have more future lives, then what does that mean about this particular life cycle for us? And you know, because then I started thinking about suicide, right? And then I started thinking about murders and things that cause like a you know, where your progress is at a halt. And that's what it talks about. It just talks about that it's a delay. That's all it is. It's just a delay in you getting to where you need to go. Whether it's a personality shift, you know, and because then I think about like mental health perspective, you know, people with schizophrenia or, you know, these really intense chronic mental health illnesses and issues that just kind of make it really hard for them to move forward independently. And so it identifies and talks about that. It talks about alcoholism, drug use, and all of these are just delays, right? According to this belief system. And then that the individual will come back and repeat that same life until he has overcome that action. Each time he will face the value of life and living in various modes. So then I thought about trauma. How for some people trauma, and Esther Perel talks about this. She is a psychologist? Public speaker, I know for sure. Public speaker on infidelity. But she used to work with people who were trauma survivors from the Holocaust. And I'll include her link to the podcast, but she talked about how she noticed a pattern with some of the people with trauma who experienced trauma during the Holocaust, that some people, that moment in their life was like a reawakening almost of like, how are you going to choose to continue to live your life? And then there was this other group of individuals that same exact experience or similar experience with the Holocaust, but they continued moving life as if their life ended, right? One is a reawakening and choosing to live life in a different way. And the other one was more of like seeing it as your life was just stopped. And how much different their lives were as they continue to move forward. So then when she's talking about infidelity, it's the same concept, because infidelity now is different than infidelity back then. Whereas infidelity now, you know, when she explained how like someone saw so many emails of this connection occurring between their partner and this third party, and it was like she described it like multiple knives being stabbed. She was being stabbed with multiple knives, whereas before it was like maybe, you know, the aroma of perfume on the collar of a t-shirt or red lipstick, right? Something small that kind of triggered like the possibility of an affair, versus nowadays where technology is like there, parent, and records all at once. So she talked about where was I going with that? Oh, trauma. And then so there's a part in here that talks about the recognition of man's will figures strongly into the equation. A great sadness excuse me oh, sorry, excuse me. A great sadness is suffered when the will is broken. The difficulty that such a person experiences sometimes leads to heights of accomplishments, right? So this is when like people transform their trauma into art, for example. Yet in another person, it becomes his undoing. And in the end, each person must balance his life. He must strike when it is in his power to do so, and allow the universe to take over when it is out of his hands. And then the chapter ends in this great way. As stated time and time again within astrological circles, the stars incline. They do not compel, right? It's just they incline. Free will, right? It's up to you to decide what you choose to believe, what course of action you choose to make. And I think I'm going to end it there. But just with the minor correction that I think I had mentioned in a previous video, that the house is 30 degrees on a birth chart, but it's not. It's the zodiac sign. The zodiac sign is broken up into 30-degree increments. Yeah, correction. I had misunderstood it. Oh, and then another correction was about retrograde planets. I thought it was where the planet kind of goes back where it's like it's moving forward, and then it's like, just kidding, and then it just, no. It just slows down. And so retrograde is when the planet is slowing down, but compared to the velocity of Earth, it appears as if it's going backwards. And so it says no planet ever goes backwards or leaves its orbit. It's always moving forward. The apparent backward motion of a retrograde is simply the loss of velocity. And so then I thought, I'm like, well, if it doesn't move, well, it makes sense, right? We can't travel to the past, right? Can't work your way back. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. Who says that you can't travel into the past? Because then it says this, retrograde planets represent work that must be achieved in this lifetime because it was not accomplished or reconciled in a past life. So if we're moving forward, but then we didn't learn the life lesson from the past, and we're in essence repeating it, then we're kind of traveling in the past to learn that lesson that we didn't learn in order to keep moving forward. So isn't that some type of time travel? Not necessarily that you physically shifted into your current space bubble, into another space bubble, but rather that the lesson unfolded in a similar manner. So you're repeating a past life, traveling in the past in a different way. Right? Repeating the lesson in a different way. History repeats itself. History repeating itself is time travel. Wouldn't you say? It makes sense in my head. But maybe I need to like describe it better. I don't know. What do you think? Something to think about. Alright, you guys have a good one. Bye. Hi. My name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see what else comes next for me. So take care.